Okay, here you go. As we can see that we've got our body length at 241 millimeters. The next thing we actually need to do is go ahead and place our holes where our axles will actually go. And in this case here, what I'm going to do is I'm actually going to draw a sketch that shows the holes here using my circle by center command. So I'll draw the hole there, and I'll come back over here and I'll draw a hole here. Now what I need to do is go ahead and make sure that this is 6.35 is my diameter, which is 1/4 of an inch, and do the same for this hole here as well, and that's going to be 6.35 millimeters. Now what's important now is we need to understand what is going to be the height of this hole, this opening, relative to the bottom of our car that we designed. So I'm going to go back over to the competition rules guide, and at that time I'm going to go down and find where the axle holes are. So it says right here, it says the bottom of axle hole or bearing above the bottom of the car body. Note this will be measured at both sides, at the sides of the wood car body, from the bottom of the car directly underneath the axle to the bottom of the axle hole or bearing hole. So they're saying right here the minimum is 5 millimeters. Well, the maximum is 10, and that can be something that you need to play with and consider relative to how low you want the car to the track or how high you want the car to the track based on your diameter of your wheels, which is about 30 millimeters, as you can see here on the diameter of your wheels. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to go back to SolidWorks, and I'm going to go ahead and just arbitrarily place a point on the bottom of that hole, as you see there, the axle hole. Then I'll set a dimension from here to there, and I'm going to say 7.5 millimeters, and I may come back and adjust that and change that, but for right now we're going to put it right there. Now I'm going to go ahead and hit the F command on my keyboard to fit my drawing, and I can see both wheels, axle holes. And as you can tell, this one is 7.5, this one's considerably higher. So I'll repeat the process here as well and put that particular sketch right here at the same height at 7.5 millimeters. Okay, we're going to stop here for a moment and we'll come back. Okay, at this time we need to figure out what the actual wheelbase of the car is going to be. And typically it can be from the outside of the bearing or the outside of the axle. Well, that could be a challenge. So what I'm going to do right now is I'm going to zoom up to this, and I'm going to go ahead and place a point right here on that particular wheel there, on that axle hole right there where the bushing would go. And I'm going to come over here and I'm going to do the same thing as you see right here. So now I've got 2 points on the outer edge of that. And now let's go back to the competition rules guide and check that specification out. Okay, axle holes, axle wheels, and wheelbase. The wheelbase is 105. The wheelbase is the actual distance apart at the farthest points. So that's the axles, not the bushings. That's a very important thing we need to consider. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to go back to SolidWorks. I'm going to have to do a little math in my head. I'm going to put a dimension from here to there, and I'm going to set that to 105 millimeters plus 6.35 millimeters. Remember, the diameter of the axle itself is 3.175 or 1/8 of an inch. So, as well as in the front as well as in the back. So why we're doing this is that we've added the another 1/4 of an inch to compensate for that actual axle distance. So to be on the safe side, which I always want to be on that safe side, I'm going to go ahead and say 7.35. So it gives me basically another millimeter so the judges can't DQ me. Now as you look, it took and moved this all the way over there. That's not a problem. We can fix that. So I'm going to go ahead and set another dimension from right here. Let's escape that. We'll start our dimension actually from the edge of the block here over to this point. I'm going to set that arbitrarily right now to 50 and just kind of move those wheels over. I can actually adjust that even more to the axle holes more to maybe 45. So this would give me room to put my wheel in and also give me room for my eye screw that I need to put in to hold the car down to the track with the fishing line. Okay, we're going to come back to this. So what I want to do now is I want to go ahead and plot some points out here. I'm going to do a right mouse click and go back to my selection thing. I want to plot some points up here, which would be the actual top of the car, and it would include the safety zone that we need around the CO2 chamber. So what I'll do is I'll go place my point. Now this is at 55 millimeters here. I'm going to come up here and set a measurement. I'm going to go off this point here and the point I just placed, and I'm going to key in 19 millimeters divided by 2, which would give me half of the diameter of the CO2 cartridge. So I key in enter, so it's 9.5. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to come up here and place a point above that right here, and I'm going to set that dimension to 4 millimeters. So I'll go in and I'll use my smart dimension, and I will come in here and select this point here and this point, and I'll go to the right of that, and I'm going to say probably 4.5 millimeters. Okay, so now what I'll do is I'll come back here to the back of the car, and I'm going to set a dimension, set a point right there, and then I'll come up and I'll place another point above that right here. I'll make sure that it's not collinear with the point I just placed, so I'll just place it a little bit above that. Now I'll go back to my selection arrow, and I'm going to click on this point here. I'm going to right mouse click, and I'm going to go down here and see if I have another command. I don't have that command I'm looking for, so that's alright. We'll go ahead and set some dimensions anyway. So I'm going to go from this point here to that point, and I'm going to set a dimension of 3.5 millimeters, as you see there. Now from this point here to, oh wait a minute, I did that wrong. Let's go and change that. So I'll double click on this, and it has to be the same diameter as the actual CO2 opening. Maybe a little complex, but that's okay. We're actually engineering a car here. Now that's better. So let's go back and smart dimension this guy from here to there on that one point. And at that point I'm going to key in 3.5 millimeters. And what I'm doing is I'm setting in plot points for my car to go from one side of the car to the next. Now the next thing I'm going to do is zoom out a little bit. I'm going to come over here, right mouse click, and get my selection. What's kind of important here is I'm going to go directly off of this point. If I can't find it, I'll go ahead and I'll put me in a line from horizontal, and I'll start from this point and go over to here. Now I'm plotting a point in right there at this intersection where that will be the front tip of my car. The reason I have a long distance from this point here to the front of the car is that this is going to be a 35-gram car. It's a very light car. This car will, to win a championship, have to race a minimum of 8, maximum of 9 races. So think of this thing in the front of the car hitting the towel going 55 to 60 miles an hour, hitting that towel anywhere from 8 to 9 times. So we want as much protection in the front of this car as possible to give it more durability in the long term of a race. Okay, what's important to understand is what I just accomplished. I went in and put these points in. These will become anchor points for the spline that I put actually onto the car. That's important because what it allows me to do is to control the shape of the car and the profile of the car as we design it. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to select the spline command, and I'm going to come over here and start plotting these points in. So I'm plotting that point in there, and I'm going to plot this here and plot that right there. So I'm going to go ahead and escape on that. I'm going to go back and put a line in going from here down to the base of the car there. I'll come over here to about the center. Yeah, I wanted to make sure that I got it basically right underneath the bottom of the axle. And as you can tell, I actually did not do that. That's not a problem. So what we'll do at this point is I'll use my power trim command, and I'll just take that line out. I'll go back and I'll hit my line command again, and what I'll do is I'll come up off that particular point that we put in at the bottom of the bushing / axle hole. I'll draw the line over to there. Now immediately, instead of exiting the command, I'll go and select the spline command again, and I'll come up here and I'll put a point right there. And at that point in time I'll hit escape, and then I can select on this point and I can adjust down the actual profile that I'm looking at. Now I want to express a couple of comments about this that are important. The shape of this overall profile matches the Bernoulli effect on an actual wing. I want to create lift on my car and not have it actually forcing itself down, which is why I put this little lip on the underside of it so I actually get a little lift. My goal is to try to create a wing that's flying down the track as efficiently as possible. Okay, we're going to stop now at this point, and we'll come back and start working on the extrude portion of this particular. Now at this point I got a really nice sketch. So what I want to do now is I want to extrude this sketch into a 3D shape that can be the center of my actual car. So I'm going to go ahead while still in the sketch, and I'm going to hit project features. I'm going to go to extrude boss base. Now the car comes around, and what's real important is this little fact right here. We do not want to extrude from the sketch outward. We want to extrude from the mid plane of the sketch. We're going to go ahead and leave it at 10 millimeters, and we'll go ahead and hit accept on that. So now if I do an F, which fits my sketch, and do a control 3, it should go ahead and show me in the right side, and then control 4 show me on the left side of what my car is starting to look like. I've got a lot of liberty here in which I can modify and change things, which is really cool. Like maybe I want to pull this point down a little bit, but actually I'm kind of more inclined to leave it there. So that gives me my actual sketch. Let's go ahead and do a rebuild and save our model. Okay, that looks pretty good for now, so we're going to go ahead and stop here, and we're going to come back and draw in our CO2 chamber.